So I am here again with my friend, my colleague, fellow executive leadership coach, Elizabeth Lobius. Last time, if you listened to our last recording, we talked about relationship. We talked about what's going on a little bit under the dynamics of relationships. So we talked about the iceberg, and we talked a little bit about the stories that we create about each other. And we're gonna go into that in a little bit more detail in this conversation. So Elizabeth, it's great to be here with you again. So maybe I can just ask you to start off by, I guess, there's two elements to this: the stories that we create, the narrative that we create, and how that is in businesses, but also how and why does this story creation facilitate? How does it actually occur, and what's it doing from a logical perspective?
Well, I'm going to answer the second question first, because I think, and then circle back, I think, to what are the implications for business. So how it looks to me is, first of all, the story is how we are perceiving that looks real to us. But I want to kind of take a step back to how is that even being created? What is creating that? And I like to call this, there's a hidden variable at play in everyone that is creating the story that looks real to us in any given moment. And you could call this a lot of different things, but I like to consider it to be this energetic power that the brain uses, called thought, with a kind of capital T in my mind. And it's powering and creating our entire experience. But it's a hidden variable because it's hidden from our awareness most of the time. And I just wanted to talk to that a little bit. What's creating the story and what I see about that and why that even matters. It's like electricity is creating the light in the room, but electricity itself is invisible and hidden. But we see the output, we see the light. So it's a little bit like that. So this energy, this power of thought, it has these attributes, these qualities, these principles, you could say, and knowing this, understanding this makes a huge impact in our own relationship with our own stories and other people's. So one of the things that it's good to know that this power called thought, the creator of stories, how it works, it is constantly changing. You know, we were just saying last time about we would both have a story about each other. But the more we drop that and are present, we notice another story emerges. And that's how thought works. It's constantly changing. It's constantly updating. It's constantly altering. And we don't have to do anything. This is another attribute. We don't have to do anything to change our thinking. The nature of thought is to change all on its own, by itself. Exactly like weather. It comes and it goes. It changes. And there is a phenomena that almost the less we involve ourselves with trying to change our thought, the easier and quicker it changes. So this is really interesting and relevant to relationships, because if you take a look, you'll see that you can think of someone and have 20 different versions of them in your head, depending on what mood you're in and your own experience of life at that moment in time can actually alter the quality of the thoughts that you would have about that person. And, you know, I just use an example of my husband. I can have all different types of thoughts about him all day long. Some of them, when we were moving house, were along the lines of, if you can't keep a list and action it, I might have to divorce you. So I had what I like to call the divorce thought. Now, really, technically, that was a function of my own frame of mind, being in a very low mood and feeling very overwhelmed. And so in that the quality of my mind was quite low, and it was coming up with the kind of thoughts that make me think I want to divorce my husband. And then on a different day, my husband is bringing me breakfast in bed, and I'm in the presence of this enormous, endless love and gratitude for how much my husband looks after me and loves me. Same husband who tends to do the same things, you know, not do lists and make me food. But my awareness, my thought has changed. And I think this is really fascinating when we recognize that so often we think that the story we're telling is about something out there, but really the story that comes to us is a function, it's internal in our own minds being created, and then it's looking real. And this is the, you know, the nature of thought. And just, you know, I know you teach a lot and speak to this a lot in your work too. So I just want to add one more thing and then throw it to you to say what else you see about how thought works. But I think the one little piece that I just want to put in is that this is going on for everybody, no exceptions. Everyone is creating their own experience of the moment through their own thought, the energy of thought. Create is the creator. They may be all looking at the same thing, but they all have their own unique version of what they're seeing. And another way to say that is we're all living in our very own thought-created separate reality, like a virtual headset that we're all living inside of that looks real to us. And I think that's often overlooked when we're going about our daily life and relating to others. So there's just a few opening thoughts from me. What about you?
Wow. So there's many elements to this, and the first thing that dawns on me is how dangerous the narrative or the stories can be that I have about other people without me realizing it. Because, and I talked about this last time, it prevents me from being present. It prevents me from being connected because I'm not really connecting with you in this moment. If I've got a story going on, I can't connect because actually all I'm doing is I'm in relationship to the story I've got rather than in relationship and deep connection with you in this moment. And so really what we got is you're creating stories, I'm creating stories. We're not really then in amazing connection with each, which for me is at the heart of where there's so much lacking connection, understanding of each other. And the other thing that's really big for me, Elizabeth, is in my work on myself, but also my work with clients, I'm just sort of playing off of what you said here is really more and more, I'm not looking outside at them. I'm looking at me inside. So life, especially in business, how far I get, how will I lead this company or grow it or whatever, depends on the quality of my leadership. And the quality of the leadership comes down to the quality of thinking I have that then comes out in my behaviors, leadership behaviors and other behaviors. So in the moment that I'm judging anybody else or anything else, really the only place to look is inside to go, well, what am I doing here? What's going on? What stories am I making that are taking my power? Because in the moment I'm gripped in a story is the moment that I have probably lost my power and effectiveness to be a great leader. Now, I'm interested to ask you and build on this a little bit, because you mentioned the fact that we're living in our own separate realities. So maybe you could speak a little bit more to what I mean, in the work that we both do, right, around the mind, separate realities is what we talk about a lot. Maybe you could explain a bit more about what that actually means and the implication that you see of that in relationships?
Mm. Well, first of all, we do not take this into account, that people have a different thought created reality in their head than I might be having. So I will walk into a room where I might be running a training, and I will look around and go, what were they thinking? You can't sit on a chair like that all day. And I will judge the venue, the administrative assistant, whoever it is, for failing. What, you know, I'm surrounded by fools. Why are they not, you know, thinking about comfortable chairs? Just as a little example. I mean, you can fill in the blank. It might not be comfortable chairs. It might be sales strategy or how to treat a client. But in this case, let's say it's a chair. But the truth of the matter is, they are not thinking the same thoughts as me about the chair. That's all that's happening. I have a thought about the chair. That person did not have that same thought about the chair. And that is happening all the time, 24/7, 8 billion people. We see something that looks absolute and real to us because of the nature of thought. That's how it works. We have a thought, the thought looks real. That's just how things are for us. And we don't realize that everyone else is having a different thought in their head, observing, let's say, the same reality. Now, that's another conversation for another time about what is reality, but let's just say the same circumstance. So they're walking in the same room, they're seeing the same chairs, they're having a different experience. And I think that's kind of visible in this little vignette, but it's something that's happening, as I said, all the time, and accounts for why people miss each other, why they're not connecting, why they're having an opposite point of view about the very same thing, and misunderstanding why someone else cannot see it their way. People are only ever looking at what makes sense to them given the thoughts in their head and the feelings that arise with that. And that's what we call reality. Our own experience is a function of the thoughts, feelings arising in us, which are unique as our fingerprints, and can only ever be our reality. So in another way, and the implication of this is huge, again, back to the iceberg, we can't know another person's reality. We can only know our own and our own story about their reality, but we can only ever know our own. And that opens the door to such an incredible opportunity, as you said earlier, for connection and discovery, by being willing to settle down enough in our own being, recognize we don't know, and be willing to discover and get curious about another person's experience. If I can use this word in business, humility, to know that our way of seeing isn't the only way. And what's possible when you've got people collaborating curiously, not knowing, and connecting deeply. Well, I don't know about you, but I've seen that create transformation over and over again in teams and in any situation, in business and at home too. So that's my stab at answering your question.
Thank you. And just one thing to add on that is what we're pointing at is this is how the mind works. It's how it works. Is your reality being created right now is different to mine, entirely different. And it also goes back to the iceberg, how you grew up, where you grew up, what values, what beliefs, etc. What type of day you had. It all of that goes into creating the reality that you're experiencing right now. Now, one of the really important things to get in this, for us to be humble and curious about each other's reality, is that that's the way it works, which is you're not supposed to see the world the way that I do.
Yeah.
You are different. You not only are you allowed to think differently and have a different reality, but that's how it works.
Mm.
The more that I realize that's how it works, the less I end up in judgment or frustration. I end up in acceptance and curiosity.
Mm. Mm. And I just want to throw another little piece in here, which speaks to these feelings of humility, curiosity, openness, connection. When we experience those, we kind of are on track in terms of relationship. I want to call those qualities of those feelings, that there's an openness to us, an open-heartedness, an open mind. But I just want to use the word open, which, by the way, whenever I do a team session, it's one of the first words that comes up when we do any sort of ground rules. People want other people to be open to them and not judgmental. It's almost at the top of the list every time. So we know openness works. We know non-judgmental works for humans. So when we are kind of more in alignment, you could say, with our natural essence of who we are, we tend to humility, openness, receptivity, connection, curiosity, wondering, presence. And the good news about that, it's our natural state. It's our natural state. Now, we can start to learn to recognize in ourselves and others that when we're away from home, when we're away from our natural state, we're using the power of thought to create difficulties in our mind. And then we get the feelings: closedness, judgmental, angry, irritation, frustration, fear. These are natural feelings too. But when we're experiencing more of that, it's useful to know that it's us, not them. And often the first place we look, what are they doing to upset me? If I could just change them a bit, I could feel better on the inside. I think this is one of the big misunderstandings and illusions that we believe are true, but it's actually not how it works. I'm guessing that's a really good direction for us to go in next time. You know, this clearing up this fundamental misunderstanding of who we kind of think we are when we're upset and angry, but who we really are at core, and how our alignment with that, learning to listen for it, trust it, align with it, can lead us to much more effective relationships and ease, goodwill, even love. So just something that I thought might make sense for us to do next. Any final thoughts from you, Martin, on what we've been exploring today?
No, I just throw it out to the listeners to invite you. The purpose of us doing some of these recordings is to reflect on yourself. So we just invite you to spend time on what we've discussed here and look at what are you doing in your relationships? Where are the stories limiting you? Where could you spend more time understanding the reality, the stories, the situation of others? Because there's real gold in bringing this in practice into your life. And I really look forward to next time talking more about this natural ability we've got to be connected and open and loving in relationship. So thank you, really. That's been great.
Been lovely. Enjoy your reflections. Till next time.